Hi everyone, today I want to show you a card using the Mediterranean Blooms Suite collection. We're just going to use the Citrus Blooms stamp set and citrus dies for this card, but I wanted to show you the whole thing because it's really a great collection of products here, and this paper is just gorgeous. I need to save this paper for an upcoming stamp camp, so I am going to use a different blue and white paper collection. It's still available in the catalog, but it's called Countryside Inn, and this was in the last catalog too. It was so popular. Anyway, it's in this catalog as well, still available, and it's all blues and whites, which is like the back side of this one, and it's the same blue, navy and balmy blue. This one also has a little bit of boho blue and some misty moonlight, but the sheet that I've chosen is navy and balmy blue, and so it goes really nicely with this set, but I'm going to use that paper. And I just wanted to show you the whole collection because it's really pretty, and the dies we're using today actually do also cut out some of the images from the paper, so it is a really beautiful, here, I'll just show it to you. It's sitting right here on my desk. And like I said, I would use it for this card, but I had to make 18 of this card for a swap that I'm going to a demonstrator event this weekend, and I needed 18 of a card, and I didn't buy enough of this paper, but it's really pretty. But the one that it cuts out, so one side has like citrusy multicolors, and on the back side is all blues and white. So it's really pretty. The stamp set just has oranges, but you'll see that the paper also has lemons. It's just really fun, tiny little images. But the orange, where's that orange? Here it is. This is what gets cut out with the dies. It cuts out both sizes of the oranges in the paper. So really pretty, and I wanted to show it to you, but we're not using it. Okay, so that's that. And then I also want to show you something else in the catalog that I don't want you to miss, and it's this page here, page 22. There are layouts at the very bottom here, and I kind of thought it would be fun as I'm going forward to just use one of the layouts. And at first I thought, okay, which one am I going to use for this particular card? And then I said, no, I'm just going to start the first one. So I'm doing this one right here, which is just, I don't know if you can see because it's really tiny, but it's one card piece is slightly wonky this way, and one is slightly wonky that way, with a label on it, with a little like sentiment and a bow. And that's what I'm going to do, kind of like this here. That's bigger. You can see that one better. The only thing different here is this one doesn't have a bow, but it's got instead little gems. So you can switch up some of these layouts. See, so they have a circle here, you can use a hexagon or whatever, so you can change them up a little bit, but the basic design can be the same. And I decided I'm just going to start here, and throughout the years kind of work my way around. So this card is based on the first one, so it's the first suite in the catalog and the first layout. I didn't do that on purpose. Okay, so I also want to show you the stamp set, and I'm going to show you a simple card that just uses the stamps. No dies are needed. Not everybody has the big stamp and die cut machine, the emboss and die cut machine. So I'm going to show you a version of the card with no dies. It just uses the stamps. And then I'm going to show you how, if you do have the dies, you can kick it up a notch and do a little more. And then I'm going to show you a third version where I'm going to pull out even more things. So we're just going to stamp two of those. The middle one I won't show you. I'll show you an example. All right, I'm babbling on now. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start. So I've already stamped the image here, just to save a little bit of time. Now this is 3.5 by 4.5 on basic white. And I'm going to use my watercolor pencils for this. I don't use them a lot, and I think they're just such a great item in the catalog that doesn't get a lot of love. People like to color with the blends, and I do love to color with the Stampin' blends too, so I can't knock it. But in my classes, I tend to use more watercolor pencils these days just because the blends are great, but they are more expensive, and I don't want people to feel that they have to spend as much money to get the full range. Whereas the pencils, you get a ton of pencils for a small amount of money. The watercolor pencils are here on page 119 and 18. The problem is they don't show you what colors come in there. And so it just says watercolor assortment 1, watercolor assortment 2. And that's kind of a bummer because in the last catalog you could see them. And so you can look online to see them. I have made a little chart for myself because I have some old assortments. They've changed the colors because we've had a color refresh. So they've changed up assortment 1 and now it has pecan pie and fresh freesia in it, and it did not before. And so this is like, I wanted to make sure that I was using current colors that you could still get. And so I made this little chart for myself. I wanted to point out that one set has more than the other, and that's because assortment 1 comes with a black and a gray and a white. I didn't bother swatching the white. Anyway, and I want to show you on this little chart that I made for myself that I've kind of got a gradient going on where I've got a dark, that's super hard pressure, and then I've kind of lightened up on it, and I was able to get from very dark to very light color. And that's something that I think is fun to do too. So you can kind of try doing something like that so you can really see that you've got a wider range of colors than you really thought. Maybe you didn't realize there was such a pale pink, but really there is. Anyway, it's really pretty, and I like to swatch out my colors. It's kind of like what we do in painting class. So anyway, here's your assortments, and I like to keep that near my desk so when I'm using my pencils, I can pull this out and make sure I'm using current things. Anyway, so I'm going to use watercolor pencils. Here they are, but you're going to miss them in the catalog, so look online. I will add a link online, but you'll notice that assortment 1 is $18 and assortment 2, because there's 3 less because it doesn't have the black and the gray and the white, is $14. So that's why the price is different, just because you've got 18 and 14 because there's more pencils in assortment 1. Okay, so another thing right next to it are blender pens. Now a blender pen, it's pictured right here, is a clear marker, and it's sold in a set of 3 for $14. And you can get away with one for a very, very long time, and I'll show you how to use this with your watercolor pencils. And you don't have to use it, it's not necessary, but it is a fun technique. And you can use this with watercolor pencils. You can also use on the same page your water brushes, water painters they call them. So you can do a lot of fun techniques with these pencils. You can use them as they are, or you can do some techniques, and I think they're great. And for the price, you get so many colors for such a low price. I think this is an awesome product. So we're gonna show it today. I did a similar video using the watercolor pencils on many things. Last year I did it with Apple Harvest, which is probably by the same artist as Citrus Plumes because it looks very similar, and I love them together. And also I did it recently with the zinnias, the Forever zinnias, and that's a really fun video that shows you the watercolor pencils and mixing colors with watercolor pencils. So check that video out, and I will link the pencils in my description so you can find them easily. Okay, but let's get into it. All right, so I've already got it stamped, and I stamped in Memento ink. If you're going to add water to this, then go ahead and stamp in a waterproof ink like StazOn. Okay, so I'm going to start with, let's just go right into this Daffodil Delight here, and I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow in a few places, and I will do one orange on regular speed, and then I'll finish the others on fast forward so you don't have to watch me do this entire thing so many times. But I'm going to add a little bit of yellow where I want some highlights, and I'm going with a light pressure, and I'm just going to give a little yellow glow here where I feel like the light is hitting it, and here, and maybe here. All right, and I'm also going to add a little bit of yellow to these blossoms. I told you I was only going to do one, and I did all the yellow. We're going to come back to the yellow. All right, now I'm going to go over this again, this time with the orange. This is Pumpkin Pie. These are both in assortment 1, by the way. All right, and I'm going again light pressure and I am just doing circular motion. You can go back and forth, but I feel like this leaves less lines if you go in a little circular motion. And I like to give it an even coat first before I start doing more, so I'm not putting a lot of pressure onto this. I'm just going in this circular motion. I'm going over some of the yellow. You can still see it poking through, and I am filling in this orange. Okay, I've got the whole thing filled in, but we're not done. So now I want to decide, where do I want deeper color? And I want that around, it's a circular object, so I really want it to not be so flat. So I'm gonna make it appear more round by putting dark around the edges. And I'm also gonna go where shadows, like the flower is overhanging on that. So I'm gonna go heavier pressure. Okay, so you can decide how much you want to do here. Now I'm going to go over the whole thing again with this Daffodil Delight, and that's going to kind of brighten this whole thing up a little bit, which will be fun. So let's go over the whole thing again. I'm doing circular motions. Okay, now you can stop here if you want, or you can go even further and add some even darker colors to round this out even more and push it further. Now there's different ways to do that, and you can say to yourself that you want to add something dark and maybe go with Cajun Craze. You can add a little bit of red, some coral, different things like that. Now I take an art class, and our art teacher is always stressing the idea of, to add a deeper color is to desaturate it, and we should use a color opposite on the color wheel. So the opposite of orange is purple. So I thought, let's try it. Let's do this. And I've done this on our other videos in the past too, so you can, if you need more reference on this, you can check out that zinnia video with the pencils. But you're going to add this gorgeous grape, is what I happen to have in these pencils. And you're going to add a little bit of this. And it just kind of brings in a shadow. And I'm just going to add these little highlights just kind of around. Really brings this orange to life. Okay, now you can do more if you wanted to. You can add even more tones. Now let's talk about that blender pen that I was mentioning earlier that comes in the 3-pack. Okay, so like I said, it's a clear ink. I'm not 100% sure what it's made of. Someone said glycerin or some kind of thing. I'm going to use this scrap here. And what you do is, before I use it, see, I've used this recently, make sure that you've gotten all the ink off of it, not you know, the pigment from your previous use, in which case I was doing leaves before. So let's clear it off. And then I'm going to use it on the orange. Now, if I were to just go like this back and forth, I would lose the yellow highlight and all that. It would blend it all together. So I'm going to start in the lighter area, which is that yellow highlight, and kind of go in a little circular motion. Look how it brightens that up. And I'm going to go like this, and it's going to push some of that pigment around, which is why you have to be careful that you don't want to go over and just, because then you're going to lose it. You're going to lose that dark area that you put in. And you can go in if you do lose something and get it back by adding another layer. But the more you use this on the paper, it starts to degrade the paper. So you want to just be careful. So I'm just kind of blending my colors in. And it really perks, it really brightens it up even further. And if you did have any lines from your pencil going back and forth on the paper, this kind of blends those out as well. So I've kind of pushed that in to the paper. All right, so now it's really nice. Okay, now what if you say, I really wish I had gotten more dark here? You can do a couple things. You can take these pencils and you can pick up pigment right from the pencil. And you can even kind of dot it in like an orange would have, like little divots. So maybe we want to dot somewhere in here. And then before you use it on another color, you're just going to want to come over here to a scrap paper and clean it off. Okay, so that is one orange, and it just has so much life, I think. All right, I'm going to do a center of a flower. I shouldn't have cleaned off that pencil because I'm going to use it again. But you didn't have to do that blender pen step. It looked really nice before I did that blender pen step. So you can kind of decide, do I want to bother with that next step? Or do I just want to rely on the pencil? Or do I want to use watercolor paper and use a watercolor effect? You can do all of those things with just these pencils, which is why I think they're so fun, because they kind of look, if you use the blender pen, they blend in kind of like a marker would. Or if you use water, then they're going to look like you painted with a watercolor look. Or just colored pencil is great by itself too. All right, so then I've got my blossoms done. All right, so now I'm going to do some leaves. And for this one, I'm using colors like it said in the paper, and even though I'm not using the paper. And so I've got Old Olive and Garden Green. So you'll notice that Old Olive is in assortment 1, Garden Green is in assortment 2, and so was Grape. So if you kind of have to decide what assortment you're going to use the most, or do you want to go ahead and buy both assortments? I think they're pretty decent pricing. You're going to get a lot of use out of them. So I just like putting 2 greens in there because I'm really trying to stretch the whole coloring thing. I really want to have really pretty colors and interest instead of just a flat color. All right, so now I'm going to do the whole leaf in a very light layer of Old Olive. Nope, I'm sorry, Garden Green. And then I'm going to come in with Old Olive. It's got some tones and textures to it. All right, so I've got some color. Now I want to add even more depth of color, so I'm going to go with that whole opposite color of the color wheel, and I'm going to go with red. Now I need to sharpen this up. So I want to tell you that this is my favorite pencil sharpener. It's from Faber-Castell, and it has a couple different sizes. I'm going to use this one, which they call Color Grip. I'm not sure what that means, but it works nicely. It doesn't kill my pencils. And so I really like this pencil sharpener. I don't sell them. It's not a Stampin' Up! Product, but I really like it, so I just wanted to point it out. All right, so now I'm just going to add just kind of a little bit of detail to the veins. This is just going to add some interest and just add some fun texture to these leaves. And then I just want to go over them a little bit more with the green, and then I'll just give these little darker highlighted areas. Okay, so now you can decide, do I want to go over it with anything else? You can throw some yellow in there, why not? Or do you want to go ahead and leave it alone, or do you want to use that blender pen? I use the blender pen here, so I do want to use it here. I want to make sure that it's got no more orange on it. And then remember, if you just go back and forth really fast, you're going to smear all that red. So I'm going to go in the centers of these leaves. And not touch that red. And then when I'm done, I can kind of pounce on the red a little bit to get it blended in a little more. Okay, there is my leaf. And I think that is it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish coloring all the rest of these. Actually, do I have a finished one? Let me see. I do have a finished one. So there is my leaf, all done, all of the leaves and all of the oranges, and you can really see those shadow areas, the different highlights, the red highlights in that orange blossom. So I think these are really fun. I love coloring. So if you're a colorer, this is a really fun set to color. Now I also did a watercolor one, so I'm going to show you that one. This I did with just watercolor. So I used my ink pads and my paintbrush to paint this one. Okay, so now let me show you what I did with these cards. I've got that blue and white paper. I've got a base in Night of Navy, so this is a standard size card base. Now I told you before that this was 3.5 by 4.5, and now I have that designer paper cut 1/4 of an inch bigger. So this is 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. And then remember that sketch we're copying. So we're going to put this one kind of wonky to this side. And then I'm going to put this one slightly wonky to that side. And then I'm going to show you a stepped up version when we're done with this one. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and add our message, which I already made a bunch of these because like I said, I have to make 18 of these, but it's right here. There's a lot of different messages with this one. I like this one, just checking in. Isn't that nice to send? You know, you don't always send a card for no reason, and this is great to just send to somebody who you haven't talked to in a while, and you just want to say, hey, thinking about you. I really like that, just checking in. So I have some baker's twine somewhere on this desk. There it is, and I'm just making some bows. Stick this right down here. Oops. All right, I don't like when they twist like that. It makes me crazy. Let's see if I can glue it in place. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and add so that the bow is just slightly, and actually that'll hold my thing from twisting too, right? So these are wonky. One is going this way, one is going that way, but I want to make sure my sentiment is on straight. like so. Okay, now we can add some little rhinestones if you want. And this is my simple version. So then if you want to step this up a bit, but still you don't want to use dies, you can cut out some of these little flowers from the same stamp set and use those. So you can see you've got a couple. Now there are dies to cut this out, but we're talking about if you don't have any dies. So you can add something like this right there, just to give it a little more oomph. And you can cut out as many as you want and add a little more fun to your front. Now let me show you what that looks like closed. So there is my citrus blooms. Now I did do this again. If you want to do even more on the inside, you can add some more of those little blossoms. And you know, when you cut these panels out of that 12 by 12 sheet of Designer Series paper, I've cut 2 on top of each other, and you've got that little small strip. What I do with that is I cut it into another tiny little thin strips, and I use those on the insides of my cards, because it's just, you know, it's this little strip, and if I don't use it right away, I feel like it stays in the paper pack forever. And if I just put it on the inside, it kind of brings the outside of my card to the inside of my card. So that's a little way to step it up a notch. Add some rhinestones. So here's simple, stepped up with some rhinestones and some cutouts. Now there's another way you can step it up even more, and that would be, all right, so I've already got my card base. I've got my label or my sentiment. This time I'm going to use another piece of basic white, but rather than stamp directly on it, we are going to use it for a background, and we're going to use those dies. So let me find, I cut some out. Now what did I do with them? Oh, here they are. Okay, I cut out a whole bunch of these because I need to make 18 like I said. Okay, so we've got another piece of the basic white, still 3.5 by 4.5, and I'm going to get out balmy blue. There it is. And this time we're going to make another background. This is just a blending brush, and I'm picking up some balmy blue ink and adding it to my background here. Okay, now here we are going to cut out our pencil colored oranges with the dies. So we're finally using the dies. The die set is really awesome. This is 3 dies here. You've got an outline. It's just great for adding a layer that has, you know, instead of having a simple rectangle, you could do something like this. It's got some detail. I think that's really pretty all by itself. Or you can add this lacy leaves and kind of have like a vignette where you can look through those leaves to something in the background. And then this is another die that's just leaves. So there's 3 here. There's a completely just solid outline, or you can make it a fancier outline. And then this is filler leaves, which can be used, you know, behind the oranges and add some greenery. So these are really fun. And then this set, you see you've got the 2 that cut out the stamped oranges, and then the stamped flowers, and then you've just got some additional little tiny flowers and some leaves. So it's a really fun die set too. Okay, so I want to cut out this guy, and I'm going to cut out, I think, a couple of these. Okay. I'm going to use this small one just because it fits on the camera here. Alright, I hope this fits on there. Just barely, we'll see. I like using this one, just like I said, it fits on the camera. Otherwise I can use my regular one. Let's see if the die will fit. A little bit of washi tape to hold it in place. Okay, this one barely fit on there, but it did, so that's good. All right, and then let's do a couple of these little guys with a scrap of pumpkin pie. And I already cut out some of these. Okay, so let's put this one together. I want to make sure that you can still see this blue. So I'm gonna check, or do I want more? I might want some more, so I'll do that on fast forward. I'm just gonna add a little more balmy blue. Okay, let's stick that down. Right now I'm gonna put my oranges down. And I'm putting these down first before the gold foil, just because I like to stick the big image down and then tuck things around it. So we've got that. And then just a little dots of glue here and there. All right, let's get our bow. Okay, now this one I'm gonna put right there. Now here I've got a couple layers going, so I need to make sure that the dimensional goes on the layer that's further down. And then this is already up one layer, so I'm gonna add a little glue. And then we've got these tiny little orange ones, so let's put those around. 1, 2, 3. Where is my take your pick? Here it is. There we go. Okay, and then do we want to add gems? I don't know. Let's do it. Decide if that's too much or if you like the gems. Let me know in the comments. So my children are challenging me. They're like, I wanted to get to 10,000 subscribers, and which is a lot by Christmas. It's only, what is it? It's May. So maybe if it'd be so great if you could subscribe and like, and I love bringing you these free tutorials. So send me a little like and a subscribe, even a comment. That helps the algorithm so that YouTube shows my videos more, and that would be so awesome. It's a big challenge, big stretch that they've given me, so I'm not sure, but I'm gonna go for it, and I'm gonna ask you to subscribe. So I hope you like this. So here we've got the simplest, right, with just the basic here, and then we stepped it up just a little bit more by fussy cutting some flowers. Oh, here, you do need a die cut for this. I should have said that, but you can cut this shape out with scissors too. This is a die, and I was not thinking when I did that. And it is from the Stylish Shapes dies, and I think these are awesome. But if you don't have this, you can cut out a little shape like this. It just won't have the little dots. Who remembers paper piercing and the paper piercing mat? Then you would have the little dots. I haven't done that in a while. Okay, and then I've got even more going on with this one that's got the gold foil and the blending brushes and the die cuts and all the things. So take your pick. Which one are you in the mood to create? I hope you like the citrus blooms. I'm gonna go and finish my 18 swaps. I'm only gonna do this version for the 18 swaps. And I hope that you enjoyed it. It's a really fun collection of products. But do check out those watercolor pencils. I love the watercolor pencils a lot. And I think they're a really great value for a lot of bang for your buck with these. Pick up a pack of blending pens, blender pens. They come in a set of 3. Like I said, I opened 1 pack of the blender pens. I took out 1 pen, and I've been using this 1 pen for a very long time. So you get a lot of use out of this. Tons of mileage out of this, tons of mileage out of these, and I think they're just awesome. Please give me a like, a subscribe, or a comment. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.